The Israel-Palestinian conflict is far from reaching any form of truce, but according to some experts and business owners on either side, fostering business relations may be the key to bringing the two together. More from Jesse Satin.
Business ties between Israelis and Palestinians may seem like a pipe dream in a region where they are best known for their age-old conflict. And with Israel considering annexing parts of the West Bank and the coronavirus pandemic wreaking havoc on both economies, one might expect to see the two growing further apart. But in fact, the two economies are interdependent.
There are a lot of Israeli traders that work on a daily basis with Palestinians. Monetarily, the Palestinians are buying approximately $300 million from Israel every month, mostly gas, petrol, water, and food. The Palestinian trade in general is based on the Israeli trade.
The 1994 Paris Protocol, implemented under the framework of the Oslo Accords, integrated the Palestinian economy into the Israeli economy through a customs union. The accord gave Israel control of all borders, including those of the Palestinian Authority, and regulates the relationship between the two bodies in customs, taxes, labor, agriculture, industry, and tourism. The Paris Protocol was meant to be in place for only 5 years, but remains in effect today, 26 years later.
The political issues have been around for years. Since the Oslo agreements, we have seen a lot of changes. We do not want to make it political. If someday there will be an official agreement or peace plan, the economic relations obviously will remain good. But it can be changed. We built and created during these years trust between the Palestinians and Israelis. No matter what happens with the political aspect, we will have to continue this trade in order to continue to live.
Palestinian officials say Israeli control of Palestinian territory leaves it a captive market, and both sides have used aspects of the trade relationship as leverage during political disputes. Yet, where governments may move slowly in making progress, some people on the ground remain optimistic for a future of shared prosperity, built on these very ties. People like Ashraf Jabari and Avi Zimmerman, who partnered in 2017 to create the Judea and Samaria Chamber of Commerce and Industry, an NGO which works to promote the business community in the region.
We see this region as home to an emergent Israeli-Palestinian economy. That economy is not one individual set of opportunities, it's an entire economic landscape. We're not looking at it through those tinted lenses of what does a political solution look like for this region. Rather, what are the day-to-day business operations that are already underway? How can they be multiplied and create greater prosperity or shared prosperity for Israelis and Palestinians?
Yet hurdles remain. Israel's security apparatus restricts access and movement of Palestinian goods and people, and the Palestinian Authority maintains a stance against normalization with Israel, a stance they have tightened since Israel said it might annex portions of the West Bank. Prior to the coronavirus pandemic, 133,000 Palestinians were employed in Israel and Israeli settlements, more than 60% in the construction sector. Unemployment in the West Bank in 2019 stood at 15% overall, and 52% among 19 to 29-year-olds with a diploma, a potentially untapped pool of talent for additional sectors.
The emergent Israeli-Palestinian economy has potential in tech and industry, in tourism, in environmental renewal, and in infrastructure development. Not to mention what we already know about, which is the ongoing trade between the populations.
While their efforts to change the status quo go against the grain, the NGO has been successful in jumpstarting a number of initiatives, and in August will open a second office in the West Bank city of Hebron, the economic and industrial capital of the West Bank. The city is home to 215,000 Palestinians and a few hundred Israeli settlers, and has garnered a reputation for tension.
We try to distinguish these efforts from any political influence. We are a place that helps anyone who wants help, and we can make this trade more effective. Our work in Hebron is very important for us as we try to help the Palestinian people and their economy in light of its struggles. This is our main purpose.
So, one handshake at a time, they continue to try to build a future that is prosperous for all. Jesse Satin, I-24 News.
And for more on the topic, I'm joined by John Simmons, the director of the Israeli-Investment.org website and the author of the Partnering for Palestinian Prosperity series. John, thank you so much for joining us. Now, you are quite the expert when it comes to Palestinian-Israeli business ties here. Talk to me about the importance of establishing and fostering these business relationships between the two sides.
Thank you very much. Absolutely. We can look at it on different levels, so the macro level and the micro level. I think with the macro side, something needs to be done, more needs to be done to improve the economic situation for Palestinians. The World Bank are reporting that the Palestinian economy is shrinking and unemployment rates are staggering in the West Bank, talking 31%, 51% in Gaza, and 31% in the West Bank. And they've actually said that the Palestinian economy is shrinking. So I have chosen to investigate and learn more about those initiatives between Palestinians and Israelis that are helping to generate employment. And that area is primarily within the technology and computer science space. So I think it's fundamental that Palestinians have the opportunity to partner with Israeli organizations, whether they're startups or larger firms, in order to generate employment and generate sort of creative ideas and sharing of best practices to create a startup tech ecosystem that blesses the entire region.
So do you think that if more people were to be involved in these business relationships, it would have, how strong of an effect would it have?
I think if Palestinians are empowered to generate their own sustainable economy rather than a donor-dependent one, then we will see more positive initiatives between Israelis and Palestinians on a grassroots level and on a senior business level. If some of the projects that are live at the moment, we're talking about the Palestinian internship program and initiatives such as 50-50 startups, which takes Palestinian and Israeli aspiring entrepreneurs. If we could invest, if the Palestinian Authority and the Israeli government incentivize those initiatives, then we can see more and more of a sort of cohesive dialogue in entrepreneurship and business. There's a lot more going on than the media report, and certainly that we're made of in the West, between Palestinians and Israelis, particularly in the technology space. And I think that is a fantastic way. That should be celebrated where it's right for Palestinians to say publicly, but also encourage. We know that Palestinian universities churn out around 3,000 engineering and computer science graduates every year, and we know that Israel has a shortage of engineers. I think if the Israeli government incentivized Israeli companies to do more of this, then I think there would be much more of an uptake from Israeli companies to do such great things. And then this could set a benchmark, and it should set a benchmark for Israeli companies to look at the talent on the other side and say, yes, there's a lot there that we can work together and we can sort of build a business relationship, an employer relationship ongoing.
Absolutely. It's such an interesting topic. John Simmons, thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.